Hello, everyone, and welcome to BenchCasters. I'm your host, Christian Rauh, and this is episode 1. That's right, number 1, Uno, the initial episode of BenchCasters, and hopefully a million more. Here at BenchCasters, you will hear from fans just like yourself going all over today's sports news and break it down from the eye of the ones who matter most, the fans. We'll also be taking calls during our live episodes, and if we want to hear from you, we will. You can find us on iTunes, Facebook, Twitter, Google Play, and YouTube at BenchCasters. And you can also find us on our website at www.benchcaster.com. We got a lot to talk about, so let's get to it. First, I want to introduce a lifelong friend of mine and editor here on BenchCaster, Brian Pezon. What's going on, Brian?
Not much. Enjoying a good off-season of football and basketball.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. This off-season has been very crazy, to say the least. Brian, I don't want to waste your time. I want to get right down to it, starting with the NBA. One of the biggest stories we've had so far this offseason would have to be Kyrie Irving, him demanding a trade from Cleveland and LeBron. What do you think about that, Brian?
Well, you can't blame him. You can't really know what's going behind closed doors there. We all know LeBron's track record. Once he does what he wants, he seems to strip out and go on to the next adventure. So can't blame Kyrie for wanting to get out while he still can.
Yeah, he's still young. He still has a career ahead of him. Do you think there's still a shot that he will stay in Cleveland by any means?
Yeah, I'd say there's still probably a good 30% chance that he stays in Cleveland.
Okay, all right. Other teams that might be a possibility for Kyrie Irving, what do you think?
All right, well, for potential landing spots, I think Phoenix Suns probably have the next best chance of landing Kyrie. I had them against Cleveland about a 30% chance. Other possible landing spots, although they're not as good, are the Minnesota Timberwolves, Thunder Nuggets, San Antonio Spurs, New York Knicks, and Miami Heat.
Yeah, that's a big lineup. I know that he said that he really wanted to go to Minnesota, but it seems like Phoenix is given more of a run for their money, or at least that's what it seems like on social media. Now, if you had to give up enough for Kyrie, like you have to give up a lot, I would assume, right?
Yeah, you would think a lot of teams would be coveting him, but I think the Cavs are asking for more than most teams are willing to pay.
Yeah. Do you think it's worth it? That's the biggest thing. And what is maybe some trades that we would look like for Phoenix or the Knicks or T-Wolves or some of those teams that you thought about?
All right. Well, I'm not big on doing the whole trying to predict 3 or 4 team trades. So, any trades that I have thought of or heard that I liked are usually involving just the 2 teams.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Phoenix, we know that their latest offer was Bledsoe, dropping better, and Miami's first-round pick. But I think they could just sweeten that pot a little bit more and add T.J. Warren in, the stretch small forward they have, the 3-and-D guy. I think that would make Cleveland open their eyes a little bit more for that.
Okay.
Then if we go to Timberwolves, I think they'd be willing to give up Wiggins. I think they have a decent chance, too. I have about a 15% chance if they offer Corey Dang and Andrew Wiggins.
All right. Wiggins back to Cleveland would be some funny news right there. People, Cleveland getting drafted, Wiggins being drafted by Cleveland. People buying his jerseys get traded. A couple days later, people have to turn their jerseys back in. And then, you never know. He might be a Cavalier again. So you think the best chances are the Suns? You think it's the Knicks? You said it's the T-Wolves or the Cavs? Where do you think, if you had to put Kyrie Irving in a jersey next year, where is it going to be?
All right, like I said, I have about a 30% chance for him staying in Cleveland, 30 for Phoenix. Those are my highest options. In the end, I think the Cavs will sign up and they will take the Phoenix Suns' best offer.
All right. Well, a lot of people on BenchCasters on Twitter have been talking to us about this whole Kyrie situation, and a couple of them were saying that Kyrie is really nothing without LeBron. I just want to pull a few stats up real quick. Kyrie Irving with LeBron has played 146 games. All right, Brian? He's got 20.7 points per game, 5 assists, and he's shooting about 46% from the field. Now, that's with LeBron. That's pretty decent numbers. All right? Now, he's played about 45 more games without LeBron in his career. 191 games to be exact. He is actually better by just a little bit without LeBron James. 21.3 points per game, 5.9 assists, and then just a tad lower, he's shooting 44% from the field. They're pretty even, but it's just a tad above when you count all those games together. So, can he do it by himself? I'm sure he could do it. Is he going to get that many wins, Brian? Yeah, I don't think so there. How about you?
Yeah. Basically, any of his potential landing spots aren't going to be as nice. If you're thinking about playing alongside something like Marquise Chris and Devin Booker and Phoenix, that gives him a decent chance. The only problem is he's headed to the Western Conference, and the Western Conference isn't a joke. So I don't think he'll be quite as happy with the wins, but he'll see his numbers increase, especially playing along complementary players like that and being the focal point guard of the team.
Yeah, well, you're not kidding there. All right, another star that possibly can be on the move, in which, quite honestly should be, is Carmelo Anthony. How do you think that whole scene's going down? I think the scene in New York has just been embarrassing for the city and the league. He's just, are they going to keep him? Is he going to go? They think he's going to trade him. Oh, I'm not going to, put my trade clause out now. Oh, maybe I will here. It's just a whole cluster. And like I said, it's pretty embarrassing. What do you think about that, Brian?
Well, the New York Knicks organization's been pretty much the laughing stock along with Philadelphia for the last 10 years.
Yeah,
so,
no, that's true.
Seeing it at this point right now, I think is its actual peak of, are you freaking kidding me? They've treated this dude so awful, especially within the last 2 years with Phil Jackson and what antics he's pulled. And dude's been nothing but a class act. Like, he has been, like, if I was in his position, it would not have been so good, and I would have demanded a trade. As far as his whole, I'm not going to waive my trade clause unless it's for, now we're here and it's only for Houston. I think once it gets closer this season, he realizes, all right, I'm either going to be a New York Knick or a Houston Rocket. He might, open up to a couple more options.
Now, what are these other options that you think he might be opening up to? If Carmelo went to Houston, that would be a very impressive team. But would they have the assets to actually make that trade be done?
If he went to Houston, they'd be a really good offensive team, but their defense would be pretty bad. I believe they do have the assets, and they're my number one potential landing spot outside of him staying in New York City. I think if he went to Houston, they would have to give up Ryan Anderson, Trevor Ariza, their new shooting guard, Quarterman, and then I believe they would have to throw in a first-round pick or possibly two, which is a lot for an aging Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah, that is a lot for Carmelo Anthony, someone who, has been in the spotlight for quite some time, that's for sure, especially here in New York.
Right.
All right, well, these two players will make an impact wherever they go. And you will hear more about what's going on with Kyrie and Carmelo and the rest of the league throughout the week here at BenchCasters. If you haven't already checked us out on our website at benchcaster.com and subscribe to our newsletter, here you will get all the top news we are covering on the show, plus in-depth articles posted by your guys here at BenchCasters, like Brian and myself. Be one of the first 100 people to subscribe for your chance to win a free Benchcaster t-shirt. All right, Brian, let's dig into it. What has been a very busy week in the NFL. In Canton, Ohio this week, 7 players were inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame, which could arguably be, one of the best classes since people have been saying 2010 with Jerry Rice and Emmitt Smith. I'll let you, say what you want to say about that when I get to you, but Jason Taylor, Kenny Easley, Jerry Jones, LaDainian Tomlinson, Terrell Davis, Morton Anderson, and Kurt Warner. That's a pretty good field. What do you think about that field there, Brian?
Yeah, it's a nice array of talent we got there. Got a quarterback all the way down to a kicker. Morton Anderson played 22 years in the NFL. That's amazing.
Yeah, that is insane.
To actually get in was nice. I believe everybody that made it is definitely deserving to be a Hall of Famer. There's no question about it.
Brian, that was a great class. Morton Anderson, like you said, longtime kicker, and he is the NFL all-time scoring leader. Terrell Davis, running back for 2-time Super Bowl champ Denver Broncos. LaDainian Tomlinson, he's had a stellar career in San Diego, had a little stint with the Jets too. Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. Jason Taylor, who's very well known for all his time in Miami. And Kenny Easley, who was a fantastic safety in the 80s. He actually made the All-80s Decade team. Other side of him was Ronnie Lott, being a part of the Seahawks. So out of all these inductees this year, Brian, does any of them pop out as a surprise to you?
Yeah, for surprise, I think Jerry Jones is as great as he's done and as much as he's done for the league. I think it's early for him to be inducted into the Hall of Fame since he's still involved very heavily in the Hall of Fame, or in the NFL now. And then also Jason Taylor getting in before someone like Terrell Owens kind of shocked me. I thought for sure we'd see Terrell Owens in this year, and I didn't even think of Jason Taylor until I seen finals, and I was like, oh, all right, Jason Taylor's really making a run for it.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on the Jason Taylor. He deserves to be in. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just shocked to see him in so quickly. He's 7th on the all-time sack list, and the only ones on that, that ones above him that were first ballot Hall of Famers were Bruce Smith, Reggie White, and now himself. The other people above him, Strahan, Kevin Green, Chris Dolman, they were not first ballots. So, like I said, it was just surprising. And the same thing with T.O., Terrell Owens. I think he should have made it. But, hopefully he'll make it with Randy Moss next year. We'll get more talking about that in a minute. But definitely I believe Jason Taylor was a surprise. All right. Do you think anyone was snubs from this draft class? I mean, we're kind of already talking about T.O., so I'm sure you'll be talking about that. But if so, why?
All right, yeah. Like I said, T.O.'s stats are there. That you can't argue that. The stats are there. He was at the top of his game for years. But all of his antics and the way he destroyed locker rooms is going to hurt him. And I wouldn't be so quick to pull the trigger on him for next year. And then as far as Coryell, I think Coryell should have been in this year instead of Jones as the contributor to the NFL. He brought us things like the Air Coryell, changed the NFL landscape, and then we can't forget about them powder blues back in the day, baby. Those were sub-belts.
Yeah, that's true.
And then also Brian Dawkins.
Okay.
Brian Dawkins, I think, is one of the most underrated safeties of all time.